Hi, everyone. Welcome to the TimingResearch.com Analyze Your Trade, episode number 132 for July 21st, 2020. We are recording this at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is David Kosmeter. I'm the creator of TimingResearch.com, and today we will be discussing your trade ideas. So we have Mike Pisani back as the guest, and you are seeing his screen right now. And so we're going to be able to see what Mike looks at when he trades. And I have Jim, the op professor, back to moderate. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Okay, thanks, David. And great to have everybody here. A very exciting day. We went up to make a big new high, then faded at the close. So we'll have to hear what Mike's got to say about all that. Before we get started, I think it's always great for Mike to introduce himself to newcomers and also a little background on what you guys are doing over at your company.
Hey, Jim and David, thanks for having me on again. Nice to see you guys both.
Yep.
For me here, we'll talk about the markets in a minute. For me, my company is smartoptiontrading.com. I've been trading in the market since I started first trading in 2008, and then I slowly found my way into options, and now I use a mix of options and stock to trade. And what I do is I focus on technical setups using charts, and then I look for volume and options and news every morning, things to get us focused in the right place. So, if you're part of my members, some of them, we try to focus every day on what's in play. So for today, we're trading DraftKings and Square and Roku, and pretty much ignoring the rest of the market, to be honest with you. And my website's up there, smartoptiontrading.com. If you want to learn more, please come over and pay me a visit. But every day is a new adventure, and that's one of the things I love about what we do, Jim. Every day, you have no idea what's going to happen, and you get days like today, and you're like, first thing I said to my members this morning was, be careful on this open. They've been buying weakness and selling strength.
Right.
Sure enough.
And you got turnaround Tuesday, and you've got all these reports coming out, and Lord knows what they're going to read like, right?
Correct.
So anyway, we have a whole list here, and then after we go through some, you could focus on those ones. I know the gaming has done very well because I was involved with Penn, and Penn had a nice jump, as well as the Churchill Downs one. So, the gaming sector from that aspect did pretty good. Let's start out with the VIX. Everyone's probably worried about it because it broke down towards 23, but it didn't end up the day above 25, which has kind of been the magic number, 25. So what do you think of VXX at this level?
Well, let's start with the VIX and then go to the VXX, only because the VXX is a derivative of a derivative of a derivative, right?
Right.
So, the VIX is what shows fear in the market. And what we see on the VIX when you look at this chart is, you've had this massive spike, and we've been living now in what I call a new normal, the higher volatility environment, one we're not used to. For years, it's been down near the single digits. And something amazing happened on Friday. For the first time, we broke the 200-day moving average on the VIX. And you can see that green line coming across my chart. Mm-hmm. And that said to me, risk on. Mm-hmm. Market is suddenly saying it feels better about things. And you had a little bit of a higher close today, but nothing here that's going to scare us off or make us feel like, oh my God, we're in trouble. One thing the VIX loves to do is when it gets out of the Bollinger Band on either direction, it always reverts.
Do you look at RSI at all? Because I was wondering, since we're making a new low on the VIX, if RSI was not making a new low, that might be an interesting relationship.
RSI is pretty much at 40, pretty neutral.
So it hasn't made a new low with the low, right?
Nope.
And that's interesting a bit to me.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of RSI and the VIX because VIX is kind of a little weird. But if we go to the VXX, with the people are asking about, that I'll use it a little bit more. Now, the VXX is yet to cross the 200-day. So the difference between the VIX and the VXX is the VXX is an ETF. It's actually traded, right?
Right.
Right. There is nothing to own on the VIX.
Right.
But on the VXX, you own it. So it gets a little bit, what's the right word for it? I want to use diluted, but it can be changed because if people are buying it, it might be going up. And one thing I always tell my members is that you want to look for when the VXX is out pushing the VIX, because that's a sign that they're afraid and they're running for it. You don't want it the other way around. If the VIX is leading the VXX, that usually means there's nothing to see here, because they usually front run it, right? They're afraid they get into it.
Certainly when it hit that green area, it would have been a good time to fade the volatility, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me here, I don't think there's anything to do here right now until we get some bigger selling. And I don't read much into the selling that came into the market today, Jim, other than, it's been, if, yesterday we gapped down, right? And they bought it hard.
Yeah.
Today we gapped up and they sold it down. And
Right.
it's just, it's a summer market in the middle as earning seasons are starting to kick in.
Right. And you're probably going to get a lot more money flow if this VIX remains under control, because less volatility, the more confident people are going to put their money back in.
Correct.
Yeah.
Where else are you going to put money, Jim?
No, but you don't want to put it into something that goes up and down 2,000 Dow points a day, right?
Correct. But I mean, that's the one thing I keep bringing up. Where else are you going to put money? There's no
you
yield.
can't. Yeah.
Right. So other than putting money back into the stock market, nobody has places to put their money. So, I believe, right now you buy the dips, we should get some sell off at some point soon.
Yeah.
But, soon it could be a couple weeks yet.
At some point, the people that are looking for yield are going to start buying equities because, you can't make yield in the bank. So obviously equities that pay money like value is going to have some attraction over time.
Especially a name like Apple, which has a big dividend.
Yeah.
Or Costco, right? Yeah.
Yep. Then you get a little growth in the other thing too. All right, well, let's move forward here because this is the big kahuna here. This is the company that sells about $300,000 cars, but has a market cap of $9 trillion or whatever it has. So we'll have to see here. Down 77. Yesterday was up 150. This is a pretty wild ride on Tesla. What do you think?
This name is a cult stock, right?
Yeah.
Hate it. It moves completely on its own whims or on Elon Musk's tweets.
Right.
The move from last earnings is nothing short of incredible, right? I mean,
Unreal.
we've doubled its price.
Yeah.
Up here in the 1600s here. We have earnings tomorrow night. So I love when people ask me, well, what do you think of Tesla here? Well, with earnings 24 hours away, I don't.
Right.
I want nothing to do with this stock until I have a better idea of what's going on with earnings. Because honestly, I think the implied move on this one now is $200 tomorrow.
Either way.
Yeah, 189 as at the close.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be easily wrong. And honestly, if earnings are bad, it could drop a lot more than $200. I mean, you could see a move all the way back down to 1,000 in a heartbeat on this. You could also see a move up to 2,000 quickly on this. I'm not trying to pick sides on it. You're looking at a name that moves $20 in 5 minutes routinely now. Very tough name to trade. Very tough name to be in. If you believe in it, then you're just an owner of it and you want to be involved with Elon Musk. But I wouldn't be buying it here until after earnings.
Yeah, and like I say, they haven't exactly been making a ton of money. On the positive side, obviously it's a momentum thing and it's a cult thing, and that's all fabulous. And the prices are great, so you can't argue with that. You can't fight the tape. But on the other side, I heard 5% drop in their registrations in California.
Yep.
And, I mean, at some point, and the short interest I just noticed is at 7%. It used to be at 30, 40, 50%.
Well, they got killed.
Exactly. So there's no short to buy up here as much. And of course, the statistics are going to be a hard one to chew. So it's a question of, do people want to keep betting the come line here? And if they do, then 2,000, who knows where it's going. But if they decide to take some chips off, this thing might, what's the 200-day moving average? I mean, it's at what?
650.
Yeah. So
I mean, literally, I could see this on a bad miss. I can see a huge drop in this. You could, a big price void in it. I could also see on a big hit, this thing could fly. And, I'm not a big believer personally on the numbers that come out of this company.
Right.
If you've ever listened to their conference calls, it's kind of like the old West, right? They kind of just make things up as they go. They've gone through 4 or 5 CFOs in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I do worry about their books sometimes, but you play the action. I do think this though, any big dip in this name is very viable at the end of the day because people love it.
No, and like I say, it's in a lot of funds at a lot of big companies, like the BlackRocks and the Vanguards, et cetera. So it is represented. And also, I mean, I've never seen this in decades of being in this thing, where a company with these kind of statistics are going to be put into the S&P.
Yeah. Well, it's not yet. There's talk of it, right?
Yeah.
And, everybody says they need to have a profitable quarter again, which would shock me if he didn't because the fact that he has to, right?
Yeah, they could do financial stuff, yeah.
That he'll make it. But the other thing they have going on, they're spending a lot of money. They're going to be building a new factory in Texas and moving out of California because he's gone to war with them. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. No, like, and he seems like a real, swashbuckler, and that works out well until it doesn't work out so well.
Correct. By the
But it
way,
has been working out. You can't badmouth Santa Claus here. This thing's delivered for a long time.
it's been great from that name. By the way, the market here, Texas Instruments beat. They're up. Snap beat, but they're down. Daily active users come in really low here.
Snap has a hard time monetizing, right?
They do. I mean, I've used it a couple times just to try to figure it out. It's not permanent. It's not persistent, right? Everything just goes in and out. So the way they monetize things is they get companies to create filters to put around your pictures and videos.
Right.
But there's only so much that I don't know. I think they just have a hard time going with that.
Well, this next one is OGEN. I don't know exactly what they do, but I would think it's something in medicine.
Is it O or Q? I thought it was QGen.
Oh, you're right. QGEN.
Okay.
I was wondering why it was a penny stock. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How's it go when you go QGEN? Probably a lot more expensive.
Yeah. I mean, so this, you first of all, RSI, this thing is screaming. Are they? I think they're a biotech, aren't they? I don't remember what they are exactly.
I would imagine they are because Gen, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've seen the thing. I haven't traded this thing forever. Beautiful move here. It wouldn't surprise me if they have a coronavirus vaccine in the works, and that's why it's up like this. Like all the other biotech names that say they have a, you mentioned the coronavirus and a biotech. It's like the holy grail. Oh my God, stock needs to go up 50%. Yeah.
When it says N.V, is that a Netherlands stock?
Yeah, that's offshores.
Offshore. Okay. Yeah, I know I've seen that before, but I'm not 100% what it meant.
Yeah, it could be. It doesn't have to be Netherlands. It could be elsewhere, but it's offshore.
Could be in Aruba.
Sign me up, man. Can I go visit them?
Really? So anyway, this thing has the Golden Cross going its way. That's not bad.
They are biological materials and molecular insights worldwide, and they are located in Netherlands. You win.
Yeah. As I look at the chart over the last couple of years, it seems like that 40 number would be kind of important to hold on any kind of pullback, huh?
Yeah, I think it would here at this point. I mean, that's kind of the big base it broke out of is right in that area. You can make it 44 or 40, pick your area. But, for me as an active trader, I'd want 44 to hold, right? If I was investing in this and it couldn't hold where it broke out from right around this 44.50, I'd be out. I wouldn't be chasing it up here either. So for me, I look at this chart, RSI is screaming, it's way up there. I don't know the news. And on these little guys, you have to know the news. If you don't know the news, you just trade it. You don't own it. So I wouldn't own it. If it gave a move and I saw something during the middle of the day, I would certainly grab 1,000 shares of it and try to make a couple hundred to plus bucks on it. But that's all this is for me here at this point. But a nice little flag. Wherever the news was that pushed it all the way up to the 48 area, it's holding it nicely, very tight.
I think people are getting a little hot coffee in them on the biotechs, in that you can announce something or a trial on something and you could use the word good, but they're not chasing the bait because they know good could be a long way away from actually doing something and people actually taking this stuff. So they're starting to drink a little bit of hot coffee. The next one up, AZN, is a perfect example. The volume was just ridiculous when it ran to 65. And now, of course, like in other words, it normally trades, 7 million shares. It was trading 4.5 million for a while. Now it's in the 15 million. And on a run up, it went to like 40 million.
Yeah. So I had a nice trade on this pre-market yesterday. Grabbed 1,000 shares, took it for a ride and got out. And everybody's like, why are you getting out? Why not hold it? I'm like, because we know the news was coming.
Yeah.
And, and then there was nothing wrong with the news. It was just, we knew it. And we've known since this gap up that it was coming. You got this big move up. The stock went from around $52 a share all the way up to 65. And, everybody's like, why doesn't it keep going? Well, because the news was known. What happens is they let retail people, us, run it up. And then as soon as it gets higher, the big guys come in and start taking profits and they knock it back down.
Yeah.
And, everybody expects these things just to run on the news. Well, if we know the news is coming and things run into the news doesn't usually have as much power. And to your point, you're looking at that huge volume on it, and it provided a couple of days. I mean, I missed it on Friday, but a bunch of my members hit it big, as I called it out. But, this big run, but look where those things come from 36 now to 65. And I always invite people to look at the big picture when you're trading a stock. When you're trading something, you look where it's come from. And, in a short couple of months, it's doubled in price, basically. You have to lower your expectations at that point of how far and how much further something can go.
I mean, they see Tesla, so they think everything's a Tesla, but that's not the way it works.
Tesla lives in its own little world here, right? Tesla is a cult stock with its own unique world, and it doesn't have tremendous amount of float, right? So it gets bought up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Did the AstraZeneca, because I mean, they were announcing they were going to announce something on Monday last week. Did it run up before last week?
They
No.
announced it this
So
Monday.
you could have gotten into it, because if they're going to make an announcement, you could run with it and go, they're not going to announce negative. So you know it's probably going to be positive. And, you could have got it in the 56 to 58 area at the end of last week and made 15 or $10 anyway.
Forget the 56 area, because unless you were paying attention, you probably, I think I had a trade on then, it didn't move, it was tough. But on Friday, it gave the trade. That move on Friday, pre-running it, and then, if you held it over the weekend, it gave you an out. Even if you were in options, it gave you a quick out on the open, a quick pop, right?
Yeah.
And, this is what I always, one of the things I always teach to people is, when you have a gap up and a big move, get your profits in, take them quickly. That candle, that big pop on the open to 65, which was minutes on the 5-minute candle, and that yank, goodbye, I'm out, done. No matter what I'm thinking, I'm out, because that is a nasty topping candle that I do not want to be a part of, because I don't know where it's going to go.
It looks like the Space Needle, not a good chart if you're long.
Yep. And so even though it's on a 5-minute chart, this is what you look at. So when you hold something overnight, you look and say, okay, time to get out of here. But, you can see pre-market at 7 o'clock. Look at the volume that came flooding into this. I mean, they wanted it again. And, the news came out right on the open. I mean, isn't that amazing? It's right in a minute or two into the open, they popped the news on it.
Well, this next one has earnings tomorrow. And so we'll know a lot more about how their cloud business and other businesses. They did lay off 1,000 people, I read. I don't know if that's just trimming or if there's an issue, but I thought that was an odd headline, on a company that's gone up like this. They laid off 1,000 people.
It was from LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. So they just that division or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, job hunting right now is not going well.
No.
So they trimmed that down.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this is Microsoft. It ran up to as high as 216, 217 area, and now it's trading 208. And again, it's got a report tomorrow. Obviously, people are anticipating it to be fabulous, and more than likely it generally is. But what do you think?
So this name has been in fuego now for a long time. You remember when this name was stuck forever and we couldn't move it?
Yeah.
Boy, that's changed. This is one of the leaders now.
Oh, yeah.
And why it's leading is because of their CEO has done a great job of moving into the cloud and positioning them. They are very well positioned for what's going on right now. They're not
and they
taking
got team,
a hit.
right? The team thing is a big thing, right?
Their team thing, but all their software is cloud-based. They don't need salespeople. Everything is cloud-based, so they don't need installs. So it makes it very easy to use their stuff. And, this nice move up and this just, great leadership role. And after hitting 216, it pulled back and held the 21-day. And yesterday, man, I mean, it led. And one of the reasons tech was so strong yesterday was Microsoft.
Yeah. Microsoft
just constant flag after flag on the 5-minute chart all day long. And just a nice move up on that. But everybody, it's what's it going to do from here? This is a great question. I don't know. I can look at this and say I don't know what it wants to do from here. It's beat lately all the time. It has a tendency to pop and then just kind of go sideways for a day or two and figure things out. But I expect the earnings to be good, and this will be a big harbinger for what's to come with the rest of tech.
Yeah, I think the chart formation that you have on your screen looks like a high, then a drop, and then a attempt to take out the high, a failure to do so. So if we took out the 202 area, there could be some interested parties to lock in some money.
There could. Also, I mean, it hasn't visited 50 days since it took it back in the beginning of April.
Yeah.
I suspect to hit the 194, you'd find buyers coming in quickly. It also happens to line up with the previous highs just a little bit, not too far below that.
Yeah. Sometimes they come back to the breakout point, right?
Yep, they like to do that. That's where they, they set their stops, they come back for it. I like Microsoft. Tomorrow night will be interesting. Between that and Tesla, the markets will be rocking tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of deal where you wouldn't short it up here, but if you wanted to buy it, you might want to see another card dealt before you put another order in.
Yeah, I mean, my general philosophy is when you're going into earnings is stand aside. I mean, if I own something, it's an investment, right? It's not a trade.
Mm-hmm.
An investment's different. Now, if I'm not sure about my investment, maybe I sell some calls against it. Maybe I buy some puts as well.
Right.
But, for me, there's no reason to take the risk on earnings. For me, I can trade things after hours. I use stock or just wait till the next day. And a lot of times these names will give you nice moves the next day. There's something to do. And just, don't force it. Too many people force these trades and, oh, it didn't work. Well, it didn't work because, the implied move was X and he didn't get it.
Right. This sets up decent for a short-term strangle if the premiums weren't too big. You put a call above and a put below, and then let others sort it out.
I mean, you got IV is 60%, 62%. Implied move is $9.36 for tomorrow night.
I got you.
So, you're looking at a pretty good move on that one.
Starbucks is something that I got involved in this week as it started to move a little bit. It seems to be getting above some moving averages, and it looks like this could be something to get involved in. Part of the consumer discretionary, and when you're hooked on caffeine, I don't know, it's discretionary.
I looked at the chart on this on Sunday, and I glossed through it and said, nah. And to your point, you get a nice little 2-day move where it took back most of the moving averages other than the 200-day, and it's trying to wake up here a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It's trying, yeah.
Tough name right now.
Yeah.
I'm in New Jersey. They're open again finally. Still no inside seating, only outside seating, and they're still, not allowing people in. You can barely get into them, one or two people at a time.
Yeah.
People want their caffeine. They're a little bit more expensive. I love their product personally, but for me, it's got to get above 79, the 200-day, for me to start attracting some attention.
No, I agree with you. And as you can see from the RSI, it's just barely getting through the 50 number. You'd like it to get through the 50 number, and then you'd have some mojo probably, right?
Yeah, you might have some mojo. You might have a little power. Today, it tried to breach the 50-day and yank back. It couldn't hold it. Earnings are coming up on this. The new CEO is not as beloved as some of the old ones, but maybe there's a trade to be had here. They were buying weekly 76 calls yesterday, and I think most of them, they closed them out today.
Yeah. With Starbucks, you get those sleeves that they sell, and you can come home and in your office, you make all the Starbucks you want for about 60 cents a cup or 80 cents a cup. That's not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal.
All right. Well, anyways, again, it looks like it's on the verge, but a little bit more spring in the legs would be very much appreciated.
As long as we're here, just go. McDonald's is also trying to do very similar to that.
Yeah.
And maybe leading a little bit more. McDonald's actually, to me, looks just a little bit stronger. It's above all the moving averages here.
Yeah.
So if you're going to ask me which name I'd like to prefer to be in, it would be McDonald's. Also, McDonald's is opening. They announced 700 stores in today, a reopening in Europe and parts of the UK and Ireland and some places. So, Starbucks to me is a little more iffy. McDonald's looks a little bit better to me.
Yeah, and you've gone through the 50 number on the one up there, and that sometimes says game on when that happens.
Yep.
Yeah. Good call on that one. Okay, the next one is STZ.
Well, we all need to drink and smoke our pot, right?
Exactly. The Vice group here.
The Vice group. This has been a very tough name. Constellation Brands, nice move off the lows, but you would think they were doing good. But the truth is, sales have been only okay. They just had earnings. Earnings were back into the highs here when it hit 189, and earnings weren't great. They reaffirmed their outlook for the year. I don't want to use the word guidance because I don't believe they got. Almost everybody's withdrawing guidance for the year. And it's like, as soon as one company, everybody's like, "Ooh, we can withdraw guidance."
Yeah.
But they're an interesting company. Evidently people are drinking at home, but not the quantities that they would be selling to bars, and that's what's hurting them.
You've got a great resistance line there at about 190. Because it connects to the former lows. So, if we can't get above 190 and this thing starts taking out 175, that they bought Canopy, didn't they, or one of those?
Yeah, they bought CGC, Canopy.
Oh, CGC, and that might not be paying off, right?
They got a $4 billion investment into it because they're legally not around to buy it. And so and this is a name, and they bought this, well over a year. Put that money well over a year ago, and the stock was trading a lot higher. And, the stock has struggled, and this one's been on my radar because it's got a gap to fill here if it can get above this 1860 area, right? You got that nice little gap.
Right.
But you can see the 200-day here. It's just been a war with it. It just cannot push through. So, if CGC goes, that could help Star. They both kind of trade together, but neither one of them here are acting particularly special in the sector. And I look at this chart and I'm like, it's holding in. If it holds the 200-day, it's okay, but there's no power and there's nothing special going on there.
But if it loses the 50 mark on the one above and it starts getting into the lower zone, that could be a tip that it's losing altitude. Probably drinking at home's not quite as fun as doing it at the bars and restaurants. And so I'm sure their volume might have been big for a little while, but maybe the volume of people buying stuff and bringing it home is not as, obviously it's not as profitable as having every bar or restaurant open, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. People go for work, drink after work. They have drinks with dinner when they go out.
Coke is another one that's having that issue without the restaurants. What's KO look like?
KO had earnings this morning, and they were not bad, but not enough to really move the needle. They're up a little bit, but not all that much. Couldn't really pop. Has a gap up here to fill. Basically tested it and just said, nope, not ready for that, and pulled back. The earnings were okay. There was nothing wrong with them. They were fine. They just weren't special.
Yeah. Although they are coming at, this is more of a value deal, and the value thing at some point, because this thing pays a decent dividend, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And Pepsi actually tried to pop higher off of it. Go figure.
Yeah. All right. The next one up is TTD.
Trade Desk.
Okay.
So this has been one of the leaders in the market, right? Off the lows. You look at this game from all the way down here, this big move off the lows, and now all the way up to new all-time highs. It hit almost 475, almost hit 500. And, we got this sharp pullback starting last week. Remember last week, all of a sudden they decided tech was out. For whatever reason, last week we started selling tech. TTD took a big sell hit on that one day, and it really kind of clawed its way back nicely here as we're heading to earnings. It also did something really good. It cooled off the RSI on it. It held the 21-day, and just a strong name in general. It's a tough name to trade, and the reason it's a tough name to trade is because, one, it only does about 1 million shares a day. For me, any name that does 1 million or so shares a day, volumes, it's not the most liquid. The options are not always the most liquid. It's it's getting a little tough up here to trade this name now it's getting so high. They specialize in the advertising space. They're very similar in some respects to a Roku. Amazon's one of their big clients. Chart looks good. Earnings are coming. Run a ton. I don't know. But it certainly
kind of looks like Microsoft, meaning it made a high point, came down, trying to make a new high, hasn't done it yet. We start taking out 426 and 420. That could change the music. And you say earnings are coming out this week?
No, I think they're in a week or so. Yeah, let me look real quick. But the thing is, with all these names, they've run so much.
Oh, yeah.
Expectations are going to be high on these, and that's that doesn't mean they can't beat, right? But the expectation will be high. Estimated on 8.6 for earnings. And I think that's the problem, is everybody just kind of expects these names to just continue to go and go and go. And maybe they do, but you got to be careful up here at these levels. If you own it from down lower, you should be taking profits up in this level. If you're not in it here, maybe you wait to see what the markets want to do.
All right, the next one is the cloud business, and it also I got a lot of these charts on tech look very similar.
Well, it's because of the Qs.
Yeah.
Right? Look at the Qs. It's almost exactly the same.
Yeah. Although the Qs look like they made a new high, where a lot of these other things haven't.
Almost.
But it's very similar in that. Yeah. Anyway, this next one is NET, and again, you got a high point, correction down to 35, a snapback to 40, and now, what's the next move?
Another one.
Got earnings coming out sooner.
I think it had them recently, if I remember correctly. Let me take a look. Nope. No, you're right. They're coming up. 8.6.
Okay, a lot of them are coming up that week, huh?
Yeah. Well, the next couple of weeks are the big weeks, and then we cool off. So this name here, again, huge run. I mean, so first of all, this thing has only been a publicly traded company for less than a year.
Right.
Right. So you've had this big run up. You look at your IPO price. I don't remember where they IPO'd at. I can only tell you where they opened, which was 18. And then you have this giant move up to 42. So in roughly 11 months or so, you've doubled in price. That's pretty impressive for an IPO. Where does it go from here? I don't know. I don't know enough about their business. They're in the right space. They're in the cloud space. That's usually pretty good.
Right.
Software, that's usually a good thing. Can they take out 42? If the market goes right now, if earnings are good and the market starts to take off, I suspect they take out 42 ahead of earnings as people coming in for it. You have this nice little upper pattern developing here. You could also say you have a possible head and shoulders pattern trying to develop here. You got your head, you got your left shoulder, you got your right shoulder, and your neckline is down here right around this 34.50. So just be aware of it.
Yeah, this company has been making money, but obviously, but has big short interest, 14%. So I'm sure that gets some people nervous when it gets going.
Yeah, I mean, like the OSTKs of this world or the W's, right? I mean, these massive moves that have been just absolutely fueled by these shorts in it who just, mercifully forced to cover.
This, was it Nicola?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to throw that up there just to see what's going on? Because they have a new offering. It's supposed to be for the insiders to dump their stock. That hasn't been exactly bullish. What's going on now?
So, I mean, you always got to be careful with names like this. So they became public through a merger, right? And hydrogen truck, right, taking on Elon Musk, and everybody grabbed everybody's thing. And you look at this move from $10 all the way up to 70 to 95, right? Insanity. Then they do an offering, and now they've done a second offering. So they've done 2 offerings in the last month. They have no revenue for the most part. They're pre-revenue. We haven't seen much of their car. We've seen a demo video of it, but that's about it. Now they need money to open a new plant, to break ground on the plant. I'm not a believer in this company right now. Back down here at 39, I would not be surprised if this thing dumped all the way back down into the 200-day at 20 at some point. Especially if Tesla's bad, look out. This thing could have absolutely killed in it. Again, no revenue. We see a lot of these companies moving with it. They really have no money. They're pre-revenue. Tough spot. Not an easy names to trade like that. You got to be extra careful with them. My thing I say to people is trade them, don't own them.
This thing wouldn't even pass the stink test at Shark Tank, would it?
No. I don't think Elon would even buy into this thing.
I think they ran out of Robinhood traders, and that's what the problem was.
But you could look, you have another electric car company in NIO, right? Yeah. The Chinese guy, and they've had a nice move, and you got a big downgrade from Goldman Sachs this week. But another company, it's a China name, and I always say be careful with these because they admit they're not audited.
Right.
They tell us their numbers, and there's nobody out there saying these are real or not.
Right.
So careful because it had a massive run. Big short squeeze, right? Huge short squeeze. Look at this move. Look at this. Look at these gaps, these big gaps and goes here. Now, what's also helping this name is China now is buying equities. For the last couple of weeks, every night, you notice how China gaps up every night? It's because China's been actively buying, their stocks, names, propping up their stock market.
Right.
If that stops, music's going to stop for these guys too.
Right. Well, this next one is Apple, and everybody knows that this is in every mutual fund and ETF in the world, probably. It hit $400, got turned away at $400 a couple times. Now it's at $388 today. Are they announcing this week?
Next week.
Next week. Okay. And so, what are we thinking here on Apple? Obviously, it's hard to debate it, but at $400, it's a different game than at $250. So what are we thinking about $400?
Well, earnings next week on 7:30. This name has been incredibly strong. If you look at this trend, basically since back here in April, right, it has not closed below the 8-day, almost the entire run, the gold line. That's incredible. I mean, that is just incredible.
Yeah, that's you like to keep things on a short leash with that 8-day, right?
Yeah. And but it also shows you just how much momentum this name has in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It hasn't even touched the 21 days since all the way back here on the 21st of April.
Yeah.
Just strong. What do we expect coming up here? Jim, I have no idea. I mean, you get tons of reports. Today's report was Apple's iPhone sales are down 25%. Well, where are they getting this information from? Because Apple's not releasing it.
Right.
Right.
But you'd have to think with the stores closing and problems with the supply chain or something. I don't know. The top area up there is in the green, and that historically hasn't been the best thing to have happen. It's not a one thing only, but it's certainly not a positive.
This is one of those names. RSI can stay what I call embedded overbought.
Yeah, it can.
And it gets overbought and it doesn't have to pull back. And
No,
we see this over and over again on this name.
But sometimes it does. Look at that drop when it did come down.
Yep, but that was also with everything going on. I mean,
oh, that's true.
That was the whole market was selling.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know what to expect tomorrow night. You have subscription sales, you have all their apps, you have their Apple TV stuff. I suspect they're doing better than we know. They still have buybacks going on. They still have a large dividend. I suspect any weakness in this name is probably a buying opportunity. If you got a move down to 375, I think that would be awesome. If you happen to get a move down to 346, you'd probably be like, oh my God, this is the greatest opportunity ever, because you may not see that again in a while.
Yeah.
Again, where else are you going to put your money? This is one of the best run companies out there.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah, Warren Buffett owns how much of it?
Yeah. In fact, it's equaling almost 50% of his portfolio. So that word diversified sounds kind of silly when half of the portfolio is in one stock, right?
It's funny because he always talks about diversifying, but he's sold so much stuff. It's one of the, I guess it doesn't count for his cash.
Yeah, well, that's true. His cash is a big position for him. But you don't know when he files his 13Ds or whatever, if he hasn't faded out of some of this stuff as it got into 400.
Well, and he probably has, right? I mean, he's always smart, right-sizing positions. Amazon as well. I'm sure he's probably taking some of that down as it's coming up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
because I mean, this is a very, very enthusiastic situation, and be fearful when people are very happy, and be aggressive when people are very negative. So people are pretty darn happy with Apple right now.
What's not to be happy about? If you bought this thing into the lows, or even if you bought these things when it broke back over 290 from last earnings area into 300, it's given another massive move. Right? Yeah. Last earnings, it was playing with 300. Yeah. Look at that. We've gone up almost another $100, another 20% from. I mean, just nuts.
Now the PE is over 30 now. Is that an issue? Because it's really more of a $25 deal, 25 to 1 deal, or?
Jim, I'm at the point in my life where I don't care about fundamentals anymore, because this market really doesn't care about fundamentals.
No, you got to follow the money.
Follow the money. It's it. Follow the money. Play the price action.
Yeah.
If you said I'm not going to take anything due to the fundamentals or PE, well, you're not going to have anything. And every day I get people saying I want to short the market. I want to short the market. I'm like,
oh God,
why do you want to short the market? Well, because it's the fundamentals here. It's the PE is too high. Everything because everything going on. I'm like, you could there's been people out there since this whole move up saying this nonstop.
Right.
That we're going back to retest the lows, and someday they may be right. Someday maybe we do. Someday we're going to sell off again. Don't misunderstand me, but with the Fed doing what they're doing, they're even buying Apple bonds. I mean, they're buying Apple bonds, for God's sake.
Yeah. No, and the administration may only have 90 days left in office, and there could be they're concerned about deficits, and aftermath could be minimal, and so there could be very aggressive stuff going on to keep these equity markets going into the election, and keeping as much money in people's pocket until the election, and that's a dynamic you have to respect as well.
Well, I mean, we're going to get more volatility into the election, and every time somebody brings up a poll, well, Biden's leading here or this, I just keep saying it's too early. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter until after we get into the real election cycle. Once we get through the when we have our conferences, right? We have to go have our get-togethers or whatever we're going to do virtually. Once we have everything official, as we get into mid-August and we've had everything come together, that's when the election cycle really starts. And polls right now are just meaningless, right? They're just.
And I think you have to respect the backgrounds of the people in charge, Trump and Mnuchin and Powell. They're either real estate or private equity guys, and so leverage is not scary to them, and debt is not scary to them. And when they know they can print money to pay off things, they probably have no fear on debt.
Yeah, they don't. Now, will this come back to haunt us in the future at some point?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, probably.
But that's not now, and you got to play the hand that's dealt, right?
Well, if you want to trade in the markets, right, you have to ignore it.
All right, let's hit a few of the ones that you're watching, and then we'll come back to the last 5 on the list. What do you have cooking that you want to share with people?
Sure. So, DraftKings has given a nice couple week to people here with me. And, what you love about this name is you have this huge move. This is another one, merger, reverse, became public because of reverse merger, right? Big move up, huge move up to 45. Now, DraftKings, when you think of DraftKings, you think fantasy sports. You also think sports betting. And they're big into that. They've had a couple setbacks where a bunch of states like California, which we thought were going to legalize it, pulled it and will not look at it for another 2 years now, which is kind of a setback there. But look at this nice reversal candle it gave last week. You see that hammer candle retook back the previous low, gap up one day with day 2, big move for day 3, couple days of inside, and then here you got another nice trade today. So this name has now regained a lot of its momentum. We have sports starting again. We're 2 nights away from baseball.
Yep.
We got basketball on the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So, NFL training camps are opening this week. So for me, is the next level is 40. Today it kind of struggled. This 37 area is kind of struggling at. If it gets above and holds above, and it did close there, and it gets through 40, then it can go back and retest this high and see where it wants to go. But these names have a little bit of momentum. I kind of like the way that's trading right now. It's holding in really, really well. And I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, they pulled back to 30 was a gift.
It turned out to be a big gift, but at the time it looked scary as all hell, didn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, that was where it's supposed to stop off of some other highs that it had. I don't know on what chart that I was watching, maybe the 1 year or 6 month or something like that. But I saw that 30 was an area of a former high point, and I thought that would be a neighborhood. It might have even been a 50-day moving average, or no?
No, the 50-day was higher. In fact, the 50-day was support at first, and then it was resistance, and now it took it back into support. So for me, holding above 34.77, that's where the 50-day is. That shows that's now support. If it holds above that, that's good. If it dipped to it and held it, that'd be a great entrance. And, got to see what it wants to do. Today, it was moving well, and then it got choppy into the end of the day and gave a part of the move back. But the markets were wicked today. I mean, there's some days, Jim, you look at the market and say, oh, these are great to trade. And some days you're like, oh, today was one of those days you just, were struck. Another name I really like is Roku.
Okay.
Roku, you have the all-time high back here at 175, and you have this nice pattern building up here where you have this inverse head and shoulders pattern on a diagonal here. It broke above it with that big engulfing candle here back a couple weeks ago. And then we've done a nice job. We pushed the 165 fail, but notice how we're riding the 8-day. So it's not really pulling back. It's just consolidating here. Earnings are in the first week of August, so we got 2 weeks to go. It took a little hit with Netflix because Netflix's earnings were a lot worse than I think most people realized they were, but nobody seems to care. But right now, I look at Roku and I think this one could wake up. I made a nice trade on today, didn't hold, but I got in and got out. And I think if it takes out 160 with volume, it takes off. And as long as it keeps holding the 8-day, you can try it off of there as well. Again, this is a great play for the stay at home. Everybody thinks, it's, nobody's shooting TV. I'm like, they are the platform for everybody. And that's what everybody forgets. They provide advertising, the platform for all the services to stream off of.
Yeah. And once it got above the, 130 area, that was kind of the breakout on it. And it's got pretty good short interest. Almost 12% of the stock is short. So, that 150 area looks like the last line in the sand, right?
Yep. And then I'll give you a weird one for the hell of it, since we have time.
Sure.
For full disclosure, I own GE up around 13, and I'm red on it on the stock.
Looks like a turn.
Right. But what's got me interested in this is, one, it's trying to bottom here. Two, last week, somebody lit up the January 10 calls on this, like over 100,000 of them.
Wow.
For me, this stock was trying to make the turn. If we go back to before the coronavirus, why it was at 13, they were turning the company around. They were starting to set the stage right again. And then obviously caught up when everything went on, just horrible all the way back down here. I think this name can fly. Now, do I think it's going to fly back to 13? No, I do not. But I think here, good earnings coming up, I think next week or the week after. You pop over 850, test the 200-day at 910, and then you see what it wants to do. So,
on a percentage basis, that's huge.
It's huge. Yep. So for me, I may add, if the earnings are good, I may double, add some more stock to it, or make some long-term options on it. But I only bring this up because it's one of those names that's been beaten down for a long time, but still has tremendous assets and can fly.
How about a couple of the metal stocks, because they're starting to go nuts? How about GDX or SILJ?
So, you had gold. Let's start off with gold. Gold gave another big gap up today and finally broke that range. And gold's been a very tough trade lately, right? It breaks out and then it goes sideways and chops around. And you saw GDX with a nice move today, and that was under my Outperform names for the year, and that's had a nice year. You saw silver doing the same thing. Look at that move in silver today.
Oh, yeah.
So, these are all moving with it. The thing I look at now is, do you want to be chasing these moves, right? When you get a move this big and something like this, these are generally slow movers. When you get a breakout move like this after 3 days, typically I don't want to follow that. RSI also going hot on the GDX. Typically not a good idea on that to chase that. look for a pullback back maybe into the 8 or 21 day and try it off of that. I do think gold goes higher this year.
The silver used to be 40, 50 bucks an ounce the last time gold was near 1900. So when you're looking at 19 bucks an ounce, it does look like a heavily discounted price. On SILJ is one that I've been involved in since it was 10 bucks. How did that do today? It probably did great.
Yep, nice move up. Gave a lot of it back, but a nice move.
Okay. Yeah, so
Look at
there's stuff going on, but your thought would be it's got the green tip up there, and so at some point it'll probably cool off, maybe back towards a little bit of a lower price, and then but the trend looks like it's there for a while, huh?
I think the trend. I think that's the safety play right now. You're seeing a lot of people pile into gold because they're worried, or silver, or the miners. And these things all tend to work, but you don't want to buy them when they're screaming hot.
No.
It's out of the Bollinger Bands also.
On the copper, it had a big run, and FCX had a big run. It looks a little like FCX might be losing some altitude. What do you think of Freeport here?
Love it. Love the name. It's another one of my Outperform names this year. It's done okay. It came into resistance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right into this area where it tapped out in just before the coronavirus hit.
Right.
So we have earnings on this next week. It's had a big run to get up here. It needs to rest. It's cooling off here. It's hard to chase it up here, but if it keeps cooling off and consolidates, I still like it. If copper keeps going, FCX is going to follow it. I mean, that's really what it is. And China at this time is, they're going back into building mode, and copper is coming back online. So if copper comes back online, FCX generally moves with it.
And Chile and Peru had a hard time reopening their mines, so that puts the supplies in a little bit of question as well.
Yeah, I mean, Vails had a little pop, Valet or whatever, go off of that. But yeah, I prefer FCX over that one.
All right. Do you want to hit some of these other ones, or do you have anything else?
No, it's just some other ones.
Okay, next one up is the semis, SMH.
So this is where I'm going to say TBD. We had Texas Instruments earnings came out tonight. Last week we had Taiwan Semiconductor. Let me pull up Texas Instruments here for you. Oops. There you go. And, you see they're gone red now. So they were green earlier today. Now they've gone red. Mm-hmm. So, that doesn't bode well. You have Intel tomorrow night or Thursday night. You have Skyworks this week. And then we start getting into it. So, the semis, it's been weird. The ETF hitting an all-time high today. But if you look at the bigger names, it's been tough. And when I look at that, I look at, okay, what's AMD doing? Well, AMD was great yesterday, and today came flying back in. Micron has been a pain trade. This thing just cannot break out of this channel. Intel, same thing, stuck going sideways. Qualcomm looks good. They have earnings next week, trying to wake up. Xlink, another one that's trying to wake up here. And then there's the Mac Daddy is NVIDIA. And that's been the one name. That's one of the reasons why I think the semis have been so strong is because of NVIDIA, which, by the way, looks very similar now to the Qs and all the other tech names.
It looks like Microsoft, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do I think of the SMH up here? I think, I love when semis lead, and I think this has had a nice move. I'd like to see broader participation. I'd like to see names like AMD and Micron and Qualcomm or Xlink take some leadership role here and not just NVIDIA all the time.
Texas was higher on the news, and now it's down.
Yeah,
maybe that's a tell. Maybe that's a tell on what's going to happen this week. It could be buy the rumor, sell the fact, huh?
It's possible, but this name has a tendency to do that. I've noticed this on a couple of times when it has earnings, that this name has a tendency to pop and then yank back.
Right.
You can see here last earnings. Look, it was red on the day, on the earnings day.
Right.
At the end of it, and then look at this. It came right back and moved up. Very, very, very tough name, the way this name trades sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of people own these things, are holding them through all types of weather. So it is a little bit hard to get people to dump these things just because of a little volatility.
Personally, I'm a big fan when tech leads, semis lead.
Oh yeah, yeah. You don't want them tanking if you're bullish on tech. That's for sure.
Yep.
Next one up is called the Direction Daily Brazil.
2 times ETF. This is a leveraged ETF.
Right.
So my first thing I say to you is this. You don't own this, you trade it. These are not designed to be held. These are leveraged ETFs. They're called an ETN. And the way they get leverage is they use either future contracts or options or both, and they decay. So like owning an option.
Right.
So when you look at something like this, I don't want to own this. I will trade it if there's a reason to trade it if I'm bullish on Brazil. I'm not bullish on Brazil. I mean, right now the virus is absolutely raging through that country. So for me, I don't want anything to do with this thing in any regard.
Yeah, I mean, anything that looks like that, yeah, it looks like Citigroup after they did a reverse split or something like that. But what do you think of EWZ? Maybe the guy could play it with EWZ.
Well, I mean, that's what I would go with. I would go something like that because that is a straight-on Brazil ETF that just trades straight
looks pretty
based
good
upon the stocks. That looks better. I would trade that.
Yeah.
You also, nice thing about this one is you have a gap here to fill all the way up to 34.13. You got another couple little gaps. You have your 200-day at 35.36.
Yeah.
35.24. That kind of looks like a magnet if it breaks out. So that could be a nice little $3 trade.
And the guy down there is also losing some popularity, so he may juice the economy to get back on the goodwill of the people that are in the stock market down there.
One never knows.
Yeah. All right, so that's Brazil. Now we're going to go and find out when you have negative sales on your airplanes, is it a good time to buy? Boeing.
I'll say hell no. For 100. I made money on this today on a quick trade when it took off and it's just day trading it. But you look at this chart. So to your point you made is, what was the announcement last week? Negative 100 and something, orders,
right.
Not positive, negative.
Now Southwest still wants their plane. So they still got one customer I know of.
They have one customer. The news today was the MAX may not be recertified to October now.
Yeah.
The only thing that's good about Boeing and what most people forget is they have a big annuity in the government contracts, and they aren't going anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So that's going to keep a floor under the stock. It's not going to likely go much beyond this. But what's going on in the world right now? I mean, there's airplanes parked all over the deserts of this country at airports,
right,
in storage. What airline's going to buy new planes when they can't even fly the ones they have?
Well, they're shrinking their schedule. They're removing their employees. So they're becoming, and now they're sharing, I think JetBlue and some other guy, they're sharing their reservation, circumstances. So the bottom line is you're dealing in a shrinking industry. And when you're shrinking, you don't need more planes, do you?
No.
But the defense thing, we're going with $1 trillion every time you turn around, and we got, 9 zillion ways to attack somebody. So, maybe that'll keep them going. But, getting back to 300 is going to need something positive, right?
Well, you need the world. I think you need a vaccine and people to start getting back to work. And the other thing I keep considering is that I don't think companies are going to be so quick to put people back on planes. They're getting it done now. They've determined they don't need to have people traveling as much. And I mean by our sales guys don't need to be on the road as much. And more importantly, I don't need to be sending all these people to conferences.
Right.
But you look at this chart and the chart speaks volumes. It's been in this chop range. You had this short squeeze that took place back in June, right? You got this unbelievable 4-day move all the way up.
Right.
And since then, it's just been chopping around sideways. It has no rhyme or reason. You could put a floor on it around 168, right? You look at that area, 168, 169.
Right.
And it's just showing no power. It continues to make since then a series of lower highs. So,
it could be a 150, 200 market for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it could just sit in this range for a while until things perk up.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna have earnings soon, and I can't. What are they gonna say?
We got planes.
We're making deals.
Yeah, it's like the car companies out on the highway.
Yeah,
we're making deals. IRBT, that does not ring a bell. Let's see
iRobot.
Oh, okay. Robotics.
Yeah, they had earnings tonight.
Yeah.
They're down.
They're down?
They're down. It goes on the chart. They are currently at 84. They closed at 85.60, not going very much. What were their earnings? See if I can find it here real quick.
Did they hit 81 though at one point tonight? Yeah.
Yeah, they hit 80 today.
Okay. 90. I mean, after the thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So earnings are, I don't know what's going on in that call, but it's again, this is another one of those names, Jim, I don't really trade. It's too thin for me. So it trades under, it trades about 500,000 shares a day. And that's just not enough volume to get me into something like that. Mm-hmm. It can be very, very illiquid, but it had a heck of a move off 32 up to 85.
Yeah, 31% short interest. There's a few people that got out on the rally, that's for sure.
Yep. But, it's holding in well here, so it's holding 80. So, you look at tomorrow morning, if the overnight low is at 80 right to the 50-day here where it would have hit 79 and change, then you say, okay, the 50-day support, as long as it holds that, it's fine. Similar to what Netflix did. You remember that initial pulled right to the 50-day in the first 5 minutes on Netflix, and it bounced all the way back up off of it. So, yeah, I think, it looks okay. It's going sideways, good short interest, but not a name for me.
This next one looks like it's getting back on the bicycle after having a correction. This is Chevron. Obviously where I am, the people are out in force driving their cars all over the place. And with the fracking done and the rig count down, and OPEC probably is going to start cheating. But, the background does favor the demand side right now. And did these guys buy Noble Energy, or they were going to?
They did yesterday. They closed it. They announced the deal on yesterday morning.
Uh-huh.
You got a nice. Well, so first of all, oil got a bounce today. So energy sector took off. I missed that early. I saw the oil bounce. I didn't think to go into energy today. But if you look sector wide, CVX, Halliburton, even freaking Occidental was up today,
yeah.
like 12%. So everything was up. This is the best in breed. If you're going to own an energy name, this is the one you want. It's still paying almost a 9% dividend. They have not gotten rid of the dividend. No matter how many people kept telling me on Twitter, they're going to cut the dividend. They're going to cut the dividend. They didn't cut the dividend.
Yeah.
This is best in breed. If you want to be an energy name, this is the one I would be in. I'd like to see it get above the 200-day, and we know now that's resistance. It popped up into there back about a month and a half ago. Couldn't hold it. Chopping around since then. If oil goes, this is the name to have. They have earnings on Friday.
How about ConocoPhillips, COP?
Another name I love. They had a similar type move today. Very similar.
Only they're not quite as advanced. Maybe they got some more real estate to go.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look, even Halliburton, which had net earnings yesterday, look at that move on it today.
Mm-hmm.
ExxonMobil, which has been just a horrible name. They all look similar.
Yeah.
It was just a nice bounce day in oil. Probably could be just a one-day thing the way this market trades, but yeah, not bad.
The oil is obviously very discounted to where the highs used to be. So if they were going to go back to the highs like everything else did, there's a lot of real estate up top. And the banks are another one that are way underneath their moving averages and where they were. So there could be a lot of real estate for them as well. Do you have a banking stock or ETF?
So for me, first of all, I'm not a fan of the banks right now because I just don't see the catalyst. They have no buybacks. Their dividends are capped. They're going to have a lot of defaults coming up. There's no interest. Interest rates are zero. What made them work, and Morgan Stanley was the best, and they were great, and the chart said that going into it, was trading revenue. All the banks had fabulous trading revenue, except for Wells Fargo, which we won't talk about.
Right.
But, what's the catalyst, Jim? And that's what I asked myself, and I don't see it. That said, to your point, these things can run. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, above the 200 days, been acting better. JP Morgan, best in breed, has been actually weaker than most for some reason, but I don't see a long-term catalyst. So I think these are trade them, but don't, I don't think this is the area where you come screaming in for them here.
Yeah. They're probably not as good as a shorter-term trading vehicle as always. Okay, we're at the top of the hour, and there's an awful lot that you bring to the table, Mike. So again, some couple of things that I picked up. You do follow that unusual option activity, which can be helpful, and you also do good risk management using that shorter-term moving average. So, in addition to that, other stuff that they can get when they come with you.
Yeah, so every day I do a morning video. We go over setups, what I'm looking for the day, how the market is set up. I'm live. I have a private Twitter feed. I'm live in my chat room from 9 in the morning all the way up till 4 o'clock at night, sometimes later. Do a daily recap video talking about what the action was like and what my thoughts are. And then on Sunday, after I do about 2 hours worth of chart work, I do a video talking about my week ahead. So this is all that you hear everything called out live, real time, or posted on Twitter. It's news, events, catalysts, anything that helps us get an edge on trading.
Fabulous. Okay, so you see how to get a hold of Mike. Don't forget how to do that. And as far as Option Professor is concerned, we do have a weekly update that we give out by email. So just go to optionprofessor@gmail, and you can sign up for the weekly giveaway on that. And we cover everything from stocks to bonds, U.S. dollar, to the crude oil, which we've been positive on since March, and we've been very, very positive on silver, which has been a pretty good payday today. So again, optionprofessor@gmail.com. You'll get a free copy by just basically letting us know how to email it over to you. Back to you, David. Mike, thanks a lot. Great time as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, David.
All right, thanks, guys. Great show today. So just a quick reminder for everyone, be sure to subscribe to Timing Research on YouTube and your favorite podcast network. You can also go to TimingResearch.com to get access to the recording of this show as soon as I can get it posted, and any of the past shows as well. And just want to remind you about today's guests, Mike Pisani of SmartOptionTrading.com. Thank you, Mike. Always great having you here. And Jim, the Option Professor at OptionProfessor.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David. Good night, guys.